Yes.
All right. Would you mind monitoring the waiting room and letting folks in? Thank you.
Yep, can do.
That's my biggest facilitation concern is making someone wait in the waiting room without realizing it. Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I know there's a lot of calls and a lot of meetings to be on, and we appreciate your time. My name is Kara Troublesmith. You've probably gotten a lot of emails from me if you're new to the program and or we've met in consultations and whatnot. I've met most of you, I believe, but good to see some new faces. And we are going to just spend today, really the goal being to give you a program overview, just so you kind of get a sense of what the program is about, how a bunch of the puzzle pieces that you'll see fit together. And for those who are returning to the program, we can give you some sense of like what might look different this year, what's going to be changing, and also just review some of the details that are going to be coming up that I know are kind of difficult to keep track of at times. So trying to set you up for success in that way and hopefully give you plenty of advance notice about things that are going to be coming. Can someone just give me a quick thumbs up that you can all see the screen and the presentation? Awesome, thank you. Okay, so quick agenda. So we're gonna do some introductions briefly. Again, do a program overview. That's kind of like a big picture look at what Iowa Campus Compact and the VISTA program is. We'll talk through briefly roles and responsibilities, and then going to look at the VISTA Supervisor portal to cover some of those details that are coming up and hopefully prepare you for the next deadlines. And then we'll talk through recruitment and next steps and have some time at the end for question and answer. So I hope that I don't have to be talking at you this entire hour, but we do have a fair amount of information to cover. So bear with me. Feel free to chime in the chat with questions. Faith, if I'm missing questions in the chat box and you happen to see them, feel free to chime in. Let's follow along. So introductions. If you wouldn't mind, I don't want to spend time going around. We have too many people in the orientation to go through and do individual introductions, but if you could do it in the chat and just give folks a chance to see kind of who's all in the room. So with your name, your organization, and then just a quick note of whether or not you're new to supervising a VISTA or if you're returning for the year. And while you're all doing that, I'll just note, so I am Kara again, and this is I started last November, or December, and so this is my first, I've kind of gone through most of a program year cycle now, and this is my first time kind of starting from the beginning. So hopefully you'll notice some improvements in what I'm able to offer you for those returners, having a little better sense of the program. Faith, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. My name is Faith James. I'm one of the VISTA leaders this year. I'm based in Minneapolis, and I'll be ending in July, so I likely will not see any of the new VISTAs, but we'll make sure to do my best to prepare the next VISTA leader to take care of them.
Thank you, Faith. Some other names that you might have come across with the program staff at Iowa and Minnesota Campus Compact, which is what IAMNCC is. If you're like me and you need someone to like call out the acronyms to register it. So that is Iowa and Minnesota Campus Compact. So Jacqueline, many of you know her. She is based in Minnesota. She is our program coordinator. What is maybe news is that she is actually moving on from her position at the end of May. So we have just opened that role and we'll be posting today or tomorrow. We're hoping to have that position posted. So I'm going to put in a quick plug there because we will be filling her position hopefully by the beginning of May. So for those of you who know Jacqueline, she's been with the program for a couple of years, and she started graduate school and is going to do her assistantship or internship this summer and then move on from Iowa Campus Compact. So we will miss her. Faith and Carissa are both of our VISTA leaders. Faith you just met. Carissa is based in Iowa. She actually also did take a position recently. So we will be working to fill that role as well before the next cohort comes on, as well as Faith's position. So again, if any of your current members might be interested in the VISTA leader role, we will be filling that position too. Some of you have maybe heard from Justin Ellis. He is kind of the person, he's our director of operations in Iowa, and also kind of is overall grant management for us. So sometimes he comes in when the bigger, harder questions get asked, and when we're working on compliance related things. And then you also might hear from Carly at some point. She is a program coordinator in Iowa and helps with invoicing. So you won't hear a lot from her, but she sometimes helps with the financials of the program. So just a heads up as to kind of some of the faces or the names that you'll be seeing in the program. So I wanted to give kind of a big picture look at what Iowa and Minnesota Campus Compact is and how the VISTA program fits with this. So I am not going to read off of the screen, but I do just want to share kind of how all these pieces fit together for us. And you'll see in the next slides, I'll give you a chance to kind of read through what our mission and vision is. So first of all, the important things to note is that so the big grant that our program comes from AmeriCorps, which used to be known as CNCS. They've officially changed their name to just AmeriCorps, so you will not see CNCS necessarily anymore. So just a heads up for that. And then so it's AmeriCorps, and then we are AmeriCorps VISTA branch of that. So that's the national level. And then within that, we work with the regional office of AmeriCorps, which is in Kansas City. So we have a portfolio manager there right now. Her name is Shannon. Sometimes that's our primary contact with AmeriCorps. Next level is then Iowa and Minnesota Campus Compact. We apply for the grant. We are an intermediary site. And then we open up our application process to host sites and service sites that fit our mission. I made a note here that Iowa Western Community College is our fiscal host. So members especially get a lot of paperwork and onboarding and HR related things from Iowa Western, and that can be sort of confusing for folks if they aren't aware of this. So that's just something to note. And we use their policies in terms of payroll and HR related things. That said, we do have plans and hopes that we will be shifting away from Iowa Western and getting a new type of grant from AmeriCorps that will allow us to just do all of our onboarding, member onboarding, and payroll things directly with AmeriCorps. So there might be a few folks in the room who were a part of the Minnesota shift to Iowa Western, and if things go according to plan, we will kind of be going back to how things were before. And when we were just working directly with AmeriCorps for that stuff. There's not really a whole lot for you to know about that right now, other than I just wanted to give you a heads up because we don't have a lot of control over the timeline of that. And our hope is that our members won't have to transition in the middle of their term. But they might. We hope not, but they might. And so that will just create some additional steps that we're going to have to take with members. And it might be possible that this becomes a moot point and Iowa Western won't be our fiscal host for the VISTA program by the time we actually start onboarding members. So that's just a heads up. It's a little bit confusing, and just ask for your patience as we work through that. And feel free to ask as many questions as you need to get it all figured out. So Iowa and Minnesota Campus Compact is, our mission is to advance the public mission of colleges and universities. And what we do is inspire and support action on campuses for social change. We connect people across our sectors. We work to co-create solutions, and we work to give voice to higher education's role in communities and democracies. I'm going to say this because not everyone always has a clear picture of what Campus Compact does. We're a little bit of a unique organization, and so I want to make sure that everyone here kind of understands how the VISTA program fits into what we do. So our purpose for doing that is so that we can empower students and faculty, staff, and community partners to engage all students in high impact, community engaged and civic learning. Really in this setting, really thinking about embracing our responsibilities as place-based institutions and harnessing our capacity to address inequality, and then also creating cultures that affirm the centrality of public purposes of higher education. So our members are primarily have been higher education institutions. So when we talk about our focus on higher education, that's where that comes from. And then together we are able to do this. So opportunities are open to all to pursue an education, public policy and decision-making that is guided by engaged, informed, and equitable participation in community life. And everyone has the ability to flourish through shared prosperity and opportunity. So that's where a lot of our goals align with the folks who decide to apply for a VISTA member. We partner with AmeriCorps VISTA because of their mission, which is to improve lives, strengthen communities, and foster civic engagement. That's obviously a clear alignment with what we do. They have a focus on building partnerships. I really want to highlight this. Building partnerships is such a big part of what we do, and that this program really enables us to do that and to advance the partners that we already have. So ultimately, our Campus Compact VISTA Community Corps is a program for public organizations that want to transform their communities, specifically in order to eliminate poverty, and that values campus community partnerships. So those are big parts of our VISTA program and the VISTA program at large. So a few numbers. So for 2021-2022, we have 35 VISTA. We should be having 35 VISTA members if recruitment goes as planned. We'll have 2 VISTA leaders, and there are 26 different sites represented. This is a much larger group than what we currently have this year. Our numbers were lower as a result of COVID. So this is kind of getting us back to more the program size that we had been prior to. I wanted to take a minute to talk through the affiliates program. So if you are a community organization, you might have seen in your notice of award where it says part of your dues, or the invoice went to dues for the affiliates program. This is a relatively new thing for Campus Compact, and it's something that we're working on developing and kind of getting to be more robust, but we're in the early stages. So I do want to share what we mean by the affiliates program. So the affiliates page. Also, I'm just going to make a note that if for some reason that happens again, I'll just record a meeting and then send it out to you so that we don't keep doing this. That doesn't seem like a productive use of time. So, okay, so for the affiliates program, Campus Compact has traditionally been a membership organization for colleges and universities, but we really are interested in getting more community organizations at the table for those conversations and more formally a part of that network. And so we're looking for those interested in building partnerships that share our commitment to both educating students for engaged citizenship, college students specifically, and then building strong partnerships between higher ed and community organizations. Another way of thinking about this is like for organizations who are really committed to the idea of being a co-educator with college students. And then also lots of times when we're supporting one another in terms of services that we offer to the community or to students. And so we're really looking for wanting to build our network in that way and bring community organizations into the mix in a more formalized and elevated way. So VISTA host sites are obviously doing those things, and so we are automatically just including the host sites into the affiliates program. The dues that traditionally would be there are kind of waived and just a part of the cost share. And what you get as an affiliate is there's a few different things, and you'll get a more formal letter that outlines more details if you are a community organization. But the big ones that we wanted to highlight just today are information sharing. So this is really honestly one of the biggest things that we do is just shares. You know, we have email newsletters, we have our social media accounts, etc. That we kind of share resources and also share when there's professional development opportunities happening, opportunities to present, grants that might be relevant to the work that we're all doing. So that's one piece of it, the most basic level. One specific community or one professional development opportunity we invite affiliates to participate in is our communities of practice. This is a pretty robust professional development opportunity through the compact. I know several folks here are participants currently. This is a collaborative learning experience. It goes, folks apply in the late summer, early fall, and it's kind of a peer-led community group that gets together virtually in a few Midwest regional states and learn together about a particular topic. Pretty in-depth experience, I would say. Both Iowa and Minnesota have awards, annual awards, and we invite our affiliates to be an exhibitor at these events or participate. And then we also offer just customized services. So using Campus Compact as a resource, if there is you know, a workshop we can present or a discussion we can facilitate, serving on committees, those kinds of things. So I wanted just to highlight what the affiliates program is because we might see it, we might reference it at points in time, and I think it's helpful for everybody here to know about it, and also especially for our campus partners to be more aware of this opportunity to share with community organizations that you might think would be a good fit. So going back to the VISTA program specifically, I just wanted to delineate quickly kind of who does what in terms of bringing the members on board and supervising VISTA members. So our responsibility as program staff, we are considered the VISTA sponsor. If you ever see things in your email about VISTA sponsor, that means that's us. Sometimes our supervisors get on AmeriCorps lists, and you might not be sure what's relevant, when they're talking to you or not. If you see the word sponsor, that's us. So we're an intermediary site. Not all VISTA VISTA programs operate with an intermediary. So sometimes AmeriCorps is communicating directly with supervisors, which is why sometimes that communication can be confusing. So in your case, you have an intermediary. It's our role to report to and communicate with AmeriCorps VISTA. You should really never have to do that. In the process, we also offer support for supervisors and support for members with a lot of things, primarily being kind of the logistical and technical things that the program requires, and then also just kind of bringing the network together and supporting one another and offering professional development and training for our members. The host site supervisors, so your role with the VISTA projects are to develop the project, the responsibilities, orientation and training to the site for the member. We operate with a model of doing local recruitment. So the supervisor's role is to lead the recruitment and interviewing and selection of a member. We do not vet members. We leave that up to all of you to choose the people that you think are the best fit to interview. You will supervise the member, obviously. You'll complete reports for Iowa and Minnesota Campus Compact and track your own performance measures, but we will ask for that information, and then we kind of take that all in to write our reports for the grant. So yours will be really specific questions, and then we take it all and put it together. And then your only job in terms of like timekeeping and that sort of thing in the traditional supervisor sense is just to verify your member attendance. And really all that means is saying, yes, this member was active in the last 2 weeks of service. I did make a note here. The time commitment is definitely most significant during recruitment and onboarding, I think, for supervising. If there are current supervisors who want to say otherwise, feel free to chime in. But recruitment and onboarding definitely feel like the time when there's just a lot more things kind of going on and there's more deadlines to meet. And again, I want to just make a note because there has been some confusion in the past. if you happen to get on email listservs or things, sometimes you might hear about webinars or questions or surveys to fill from AmeriCorps. You will never need to communicate or respond to communication from AmeriCorps VISTA. If you want to try and stay in the loop at that level, feel free to. I don't necessarily advise it. We might muddy the waters a little bit. And so just feel free to kind of delete those if you want. I wanted to share a little bit just about kind of where we are with our program, particularly because there's folks that have been with us for a year, maybe 2 years, longer. So what we're kind of thinking about this year, and generally speaking with the program, with our role as an intermediary, first and foremost, we want to develop and enhance partnerships that support our mission and our strategic priorities. That's a key for us, wanting to bring you into the mix for all of our network opportunities and connecting you with each other and with other members and affiliates. We want to offer member development, so professional development and training for our VISTA members that aligns with our mission and goals. So we do try to offer things more around civic competencies that we have established, and our mission around building an engaged citizenry, more so than some of the traditional professional development. We do offer an opportunity. I think Faith and Chris are going to be offering like a mock interview opportunity or offer to review resumes. But typically those things that you'll see at the in-service trainings are really meant to build our network of people who have this desire to be engaged as citizens. On the more logistical level, we just really want to relieve sites of the administrative burden that comes with the grant requirements. So that's a big goal. I mean, that's a primary role that we play. And in doing that, we want to offer clarity in the process, and we try to simplify as much as possible and offer as much flexibility when and where we can to meet the individual needs of sites and members. That's a goal of ours. I put improve, not perfect at the bottom because we are at the whims of a federal grant, and sometimes the requirements change on us and we have to pass that along to you all. But we try our best to make it simple for you. And if you have suggestions at some point, or you're thinking, hey, this part seems particularly tricky, we're always open to feedback and welcome your input and insight on that. Honestly, a big part of our role is kind of trying to figure out how much context you all need in order to complete what we're asking from you. And so we're always open to advice on that and what you think. So, and can answer more questions if you feel like it would be helpful to know. So obviously a big role for you all is just to offer effective supervision. That's really what your role primarily will be with the VISTA members. A couple of things that we know work well with VISTAs in the experience, and then also just in hearing from VISTA members, is frequent meetings. We ask in our reports about how often folks are meeting, because we really have found that weekly meetings are pretty necessary for most members. We talk about coaching and being an ambassador for members. They do kind of come in with, you know, not a lot of power at an organization or not a lot of sway, and so kind of bringing your willingness, I guess, to support the member and kind of advocate for them in the workplace is important. Supporting their personal and professional goals, and developing an on-site orientation training plan. That's a formal term that you'll hear from VISTA because that's a requirement. We have to ask for that, like a specific document that shows, yes, we've planned a training plan for them, orientation and training. But we also know, of course, that those are helpful in a new employee's experience at the site. And then we also suggest using the VAD, which you've all started to create. Many of you have your finalized versions possibly already. But using that as a tool for communicating goals and expectations for the member and reviewing progress. These are all pretty standard things and is not necessarily news, but we like to highlight them. I would be curious to hear if there are returning supervisors who maybe have things they wish they had known, or advice for other supervisors about, newer supervisors about supporting a member. In some ways it is the same as supervising any other employee, and in some ways it's not. And so I'd be curious if folks have any input on that. I'd like to chime in. Let's give someone else an opportunity to talk.
Sarah, I'll jump in. So this was our first year to supervise an AmeriCorps VISTA member. We've supervised AmeriCorps members over the past several years, but this was our first year for an AmeriCorps VISTA member. And because of the virtual service that we're doing this year, one of the things that's been really helpful is Liz Hansen, who's on the call, and I work together, is we set up a, we call it a daily tracker for our VISTA member, and it's just a way for them to track the activities that they're doing each day. So since we're virtual and Liz approves the time, we can see what activities the member is doing. I know it's different than an AmeriCorps position, but it's nice to know kind of some of what they're focusing on, and then we can talk about that in our one-on-one, and then Liz is able to use that when she's approving time. It also helps us to keep track of those days that they take off, so we have a record of that if ever needed in the future. So I would say that that's one thing that's been super helpful for our program this year. And we just set that up in a Google form, and it just aligns with your payroll.
Nice. Thank you, Melissa. Other thoughts?
We had a comment in the chat that networking the VISTA across the entire institution is very important and helpful for their service. And I can add in, as a VISTA, like on that side, I really appreciated having the network that I was able to get with like my supervisor encouraging me to set up meetings with people in different departments. And then I also really appreciated having those one-on-one meetings weekly, where it was a lot of the responsibility for the meetings was put on me to create an agenda and like put together what we were going to talk about. But it was very helpful to be able to check in and feel like I was definitely heading in the right direction.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a theme that we hear often, is that it can take more because it's a time-bound time of service, and so folks kind of are in a hurry to get started and to feel like they can start contributing pretty early on, which just means kind of being intentional about bringing them on board and getting some meaningful work on early on.
I've been working across organization for our AmeriCorps members, so not just VISTAs, but this year I implemented mentors, professional mentors. And so it's been neat watching that get up and going with each of our members. And whenever they do have particular career interests and like they know where they want to go, then we work on utilizing our connections to find an appropriate mentor match so that they really are able to start preparing for what comes next after AmeriCorps. And hopefully that mentor can help them to frame and understand what the roles that they're currently doing, how that goes towards their own professional development, and how they can frame that for whatever comes next.
That's awesome. Katie, are those mentors in the organization or outside of the organization?
One of them is a staff member because she works on stuff that one of our AmeriCorps members was wanting to get some hard skills in. Most of them are volunteers from outside.
Awesome, thank you. So those, I think it's always helpful to hear from others. Again, I'm gonna ask a question down the road, so maybe be thinking about what kinds of opportunities you would want to connect with each other or with us virtually again this year. So we haven't done a lot of that this past year, but I'm open to it if there's a need for that. So think about that, and then we'll ask the full question at the end. So the next thing that I'm going to do is just take you to the VISTA Supervisor portal, which I know I sent to you all and have asked if you had a moment to look over it. Did that link follow? You seeing the portal? Yes, okay. So this is essentially our syllabus for the year. That's how we're going to think about it. And the goal is about a year ago already, right at the beginning of the pandemic, we asked what would be most useful to sites, and gave some options for things that we saw as maybe opportunities to improve the program. And far and away, the most common answer was to have a site, have a place for all the information so that people don't have to manage it in their emails only. And so this is that. This is our first iteration of that. And we hope to, continuously work on it and make some improvements. But the real goal for me was to have kind of a homepage for you all to say, if I need a document or if I have a question, you can check here first and hopefully find what you're looking for. So hopefully you've had a chance to kind of look at this already. The dates and timelines page really is just that. Right now, we've kind of built out through August. And as time goes on, you'll start to see more of these other things that you'll see up here in the 2021 year. Will get shifted down as dates get selected for the 2021-22 year. But I think sometimes just having a big picture of the timeline is useful. I also have in each section sort of set up so the table of contents and then a timeline attached to this part of the process. And then the details are kind of all below that you should need, hopefully, in most cases. So I'm not going to go over every single thing that's in here today, but I do want to highlight what's coming first and the next, what's kind of the next steps in the program so that you can feel prepared for that. And I'm going to start with the member selection and onboarding quickly, just to give you a heads up of recruitment deadlines. So this is really important. For a July 19th start date, member recruitment, the deadline for that is July 21st. So that's obviously like 4 weeks in advance. VISTA there's a long time in between when we select and when we onboard. So that is important to just note for yourself because it can come up kind of quickly. And then for August 2nd start date, it'll be a July 5th recruitment deadline. And I think in the application, we only said late July or early August. So now you have the official start dates too that are attached with your, whichever one you selected. And if for some reason, by the way, if you want to change your mind on that, we can still do that. But right now we're just going based off of what you put in your application as a start date. So what recruitment deadline means is important because it's not just having a person that you are ready to make an offer to. All of these things down here under prior to recruitment deadline need to be done by this date. So really what that means is I would say wanting to have your person selected and identified probably at least a week prior to keep yourselves, to give yourselves plenty of time. Sometimes those steps under the recruitment deadline can go really quickly and sometimes they can take some time. So just want to give you a heads up about what the recruitment deadline actually means. One of the things that does have to happen is that all candidates have to officially apply in My AmeriCorps. So what I want to note is that honestly, you can all do your own process however you see fit. If you want to just collect emails or collect resumes and cover letters or something in your email, you can do that and start interviewing without the AmeriCorps application being complete. But it does have to be done at some point in the process for a member to actually get selected and enrolled in the program. So it doesn't have to be the way that you select a candidate, but it does have to be done as a formality. Lots of people do use the My AmeriCorps application to select members and to kind of get candidates, but not everybody does. So I say that because that kind of informs what has to happen for member recruitment. So the next steps for member recruitment are really the first priority deadline is the service opportunity listing. And what that means is this is the document that we use from you all in the form in order to post that position in My AmeriCorps. So that's the first thing that we will ask for. For those who are new to the program, we've created an online form to answer the questions for the service opportunity listing. You can also use this Word document, which is what was used in the past for returning sites. If you have that saved and you're like, it would be way easier to just go back and edit that document, feel free to use it. You can go either way, whichever is easiest for you. But we use this information to create the listing on AmeriCorps. And then we will put that into on eGrants, the back end of AmeriCorps. We'll put it in, and when it's posted, we'll send the link to you all, and then you'll have it. And then that way, anytime you are ready to select a candidate, we'll be ready to go. The next part of that process then is asking you all to create an account in eGrants. So eGrants is not it's the back end of AmeriCorps, and it's not the most intuitive program. So we only ask that you use eGrants to manage your applicants and to view who's applying for your positions. All the other things that go along with eGrants, we will do, including like selecting your candidate and uploading of ad and all those things. Like, we will do that part of it. The only thing we want you to do is monitor your applicants in there. So we ask everyone to set up an eGrants account. There is a document here to tell you how to do that, walk you through it. And we are hoping, we can't make promises because we have a limited number of tries to get it right, but we are hoping to do some sort of a tutorial video as when we add our VISTA leaders to eGrants, so that you can kind of watch them go through the process too. The most important thing to note about it is, and the number one mistake that happens is that folks use their own EIN when creating their eGrants account. So I'm just highlighting this right now as maybe you'll remember. You will use campus compacts, and that's in this document. It tells you what our EIN is, but some folks think that that's an example, and it's not an example. It's the one you should use. And then the second thing is that if you already have an account and you don't know your password or your login information, don't create a new one. Go through the I forgot my login information process on the account. We can't access your login information, unfortunately, so we can't help with that. But there is a button, like forgot your login or forgot your password, and do go through that because it will create some issues if you end up with two accounts for yourself. So really what happens with eGrants is you'll create an account, and then whoever is listed on the service opportunity listing as their contact information, they'll get an email anytime someone applies to the position, and then you'll be able to log in via your eGrants account to view those applicants. So that's one of the next steps also. And then the other things that kind of just go along with recruitment are finalizing the VAD, which some of you may already have done. Your first job is done. You submitted your draft. We need to look over those, and sometimes we have to go suggest edits or some changes based on just like what will raise a red flag for AmeriCorps or something like that. Typically they're not huge changes, but we will send those to you and then ask for you to make those adjustments, and then we'll finalize that. So that process does need to be done by April 1st at the latest, but for most of you, we'll hopefully be working through that sooner than that. We just can't do it all at once because that part does take some time for us. There is also what we call an accessibility checklist. We made the deadlines for all three of these things the same, just to keep it one easy date to remember. So the accessibility checklist, this is an AmeriCorps requirement. They ask that we have some sort of documentation that says this is what our site offers in terms of accessibility. We created a checklist that you can fill out and use if that's helpful to you. If your site happens to already have something like that on hand, a document of some kind, you can just submit that. It doesn't have to be this version of it. And if you are a returning site, assuming nothing changed with the building or the space where the VISTA member is working, you don't need to resubmit this. We already have on file. The host site agreements also are due on April 1st. These we aim to get out by early March. So this will just be an agreement sent from Iowa and Minnesota Campus Compact to your sites via Adobe Sign. So we have all electronic signatures now, which is amazing. As of a year ago, we were still kind of sending them sometimes via PDF and printing and copying and scanning and things. So that's a silver lining of COVID. We have electronic signatures, and those will be due again by April 1st too. And typically that's not a problem for sites if you happen to need On the portal, we also just have a few other things in terms of recruitment. So again, overall, when we talk about how to do recruitment effectively, we really just say treat it similarly to your other positions that you are recruiting and hiring for. Share it widely, use your personal and professional networks, etc. That's really, we've found that local recruitment generally is the most effective. And then sometimes, you know, we do have folks who find the positions like on, well, Faith actually told us that her position was posted on Indeed. So she did find it there. And we have had people have good luck with the AmeriCorps applicants as well. But I think by and large, the local recruitment is when most folks get their members. We encourage you to start this process as soon as you can, just to get a good pool. And if you see someone who looks strong, feel free to get moving on them. You don't have to wait for any sort of process on our end. You can kind of start saying like, hey, we want to interview someone at any point in time, and we can work with that. We'll figure it out. We will post positions, just as a heads up, on the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits job board. That's just because we are a member of them, and so that's a benefit that we have. So we will use that benefit. And then we will also, if you have a listing or something that you want to share with us, we can share that on our social media as well. And try to get that out.
Sarah, I'm sorry, this is Karen from McAllister, and I just put in the chat a bit ago, but do you do something with all of our career offices with your member campuses in Iowa and Minnesota to do a universal post?
Yeah, so great question. So honestly, we tried at one point because many of the sites or many of our campuses are using Handshake. And the issue that we ran into is that it is not a great site for intermediary folks to be posting, because it directed all the applicants to us, and then it would like separate itself from the organizations had their own listings and had their own postings. And so we decided not to do that. We did not have a lot of traffic from it, but do suggest that sites work with the ones that they are working with locally and put their do the job postings there.
I wonder if the colleges that are VISTA supervisors, if we might want to have a meeting at some point to think about cross recruitment and how we can work together to do a little bit more of that, because I think we could recruit for other colleges, but sometimes it's not the best choice to have somebody from your own college, but if we did some, sometimes it is, but I think we could collaborate a little bit more and use the assets of the network, since it's a higher ed network anyway.
Yeah, yes, and we do have, we post the positions, like what's available sort of, and on our website, which doesn't get a lot of hits, honestly. Like, people don't really come to our website looking for it, but we could use it as a tool for you all to share with one another, or it's like a one-stop, I guess, place to see all the positions that are there, which is probably could be useful for you if you're sharing more positions than just your own, I should say. Thank you. Are there other questions or thoughts about recruitment?
I have a question. So I was a little confused by so you mentioned that the e-grants is kind of like the portal, or like the site where applicants would apply for our posting, but you also said earlier that we could just do a separate posting and like have a separate recruitment process. If we do that separate recruitment process, for instance, and then we come to our person that we want to hire, then we would just send them to the e-grants to like go through the formalities.
Yes. Yep. Then you would send them to the AmeriCorps position, or so e-grants is the back end, but yes, you would send them to that system to apply through AmeriCorps. And I should have said to you, when we post all the positions just so that part is done. You have no obligation to respond to or interview or anything the applicants that come through the AmeriCorps system. And you can also indicate in your service opportunity listing if you want them to send an email or resume or a cover letter resume or something to an email account. And most people say yes to that. And then I think kind of not all folks who click on, so when they're applying for an AmeriCorps VISTA position, the AmeriCorps application is just one application, and then they click on the ones they want it to apply to. So they're not applying for only your position necessarily. And so that step helps folks kind of figure out who's really interested in there specifically versus those who might be just clicking 100 positions. So again, you don't have any obligation to respond to those people who applied just through My AmeriCorps. It's more of a way for you to get more candidates.
And what is the deadline that you put on that posting?
We will close those listings probably like around the recruitment deadline.
Okay. So if we wanted to have a accelerated deadline, that
Yeah,
wouldn't really work.
you could put a priority deadline in your service opportunity listing, like in the notes, you could put
Okay.
something. Yeah, that's a great question because that is kind of tricky. So you could put, I do suggest if you have a different timeline in mind, to include that, because so the SOL service opportunity listing really only lets you indicate when the start date's going to be and how long the application is going to be open. And that is like a very specific date, more geared towards when will people no longer be able to look at it. And we don't want to close that too soon because we need that for the process of getting someone selected. So if you have deadlines that you kind of want to, or timelines that you want to think through with or have communicate to candidates, I would put that in the description of your positions.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, great questions.
I have a question. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Screen.
So I was wondering, what if the current VISTA staff member is interested to reapply at the same house site for second term, but they already exist on the system e-grant? What should I do for that? Do you have to create again, or there's a process for that current VISTA for second term at the same place?
Yeah, so we do have to, let me think through. It is easier. That's like a best case scenario is when a member wants to re-enroll. But we do have to still post a position. So you still have to post an SOL, but you wouldn't have to, if you know the member's going to do it, you wouldn't have to, you don't have to worry too much about making it very appealing or anything, selling your position. And then we have to upload the VAD and connect the position to the person. But when they do their future plans form at the end of their term of service, so within about 60 days prior to the end of service, they have all members fill out their future plans form. And in that, they can indicate that they want to re-enroll. And that's really what starts that process. So you can do that up to 60 days in advance.
Okay, so I thought I was told one time, or I heard I didn't have to do post job, or like, so people give them attention for the prospective candidates. Well,
yeah,
I know
yeah.
if this person,
Yeah,
so
you might be. You know what? Let me confirm with you on that one. Don't
because
do
I don't
it
want
until we.
Yeah, because I don't want our current students who are about to graduate apply all of them when
Sure.
I know someone
That
is
it's going
already
to be
doing a
filled.
great job.
Yes, yeah. I need to
that's
figure out how you end up posting a position, how you connect a person to a position without this
Yep.
opportunity. So you're
Thank
right,
you.
though. I think we need to double check on that. So I will. I'm going to make a note. And I guess maybe what's happened in the past here is that no one knew soon enough that their member was planning to re-enroll. So it was already posted because it hadn't been decided yet. So that's why we haven't been down this path. Other questions about this part of the process? Okay, we are coming close to the end of our hour, so I want to be cognizant of all of your time and just note that So first priorities, we have the service opportunity listing, which I mentioned, confirming performance measures. So we have to send all of the performance measures that you all applied with and for in the application to AmeriCorps by March. And then those are pretty difficult to change after that. So we might be reaching out to confirm those. On the portal, under the reporting page, there is a 21-22 performance measures by site. That shows you what we can say after if anyone has questions about this too, what we have on file for you all as performance measures, and what you said was your what you want to measure, your target, and how you will measure it. If you have any reasons that you want to change those, we just need to do that before March. Sometime in March is when they will ask us to finalize those. We will reach out about your VADs and make sure that those are finalized, and then to start recruiting. Those are really your significant priorities. I am going to hopefully save. Oh, question? Those might have disappeared. Are there any other questions pressing for Iowa Minnesota Campus Compact staff, for other supervisors who may have some experience, things you're curious about? Okay, so for those who have a minute to stay around, I know that you might have to log off, and that's totally fine because we are at time, but I have two polls that I would love to get your feedback on if you have a moment. So this first one is just how you prefer to get information on program details. So this is really about the things that have to happen. And I am curious to hear from folks if you'd rather have a meeting, a scheduled time where you come together and can hear it in person, or just the portal, or emails, or what it might be. Very helpful. Okay, just want to share with you all when 96% of you say one thing, that's very useful for us. Thank you for that. And then I have one more poll.
What was that one thing? Can you share?
Oh, did it not show? Sorry, I thought I was, there it is, sharing the results. There it is. So not, for the folks who would prefer virtual meetings, maybe we can, let me know if that's you, and if you feel like you have a really hard time following along with the emails or the portal, we can find a solution for you. By and large, folks want some email updates, but the information will live in the portal. That's how I read that. So letting you know, hey, there's an update coming and you can find more here. Okay. And then I have one more. This is about, let's see, let me. I've never done two polls in one session, and now it's gone away from me. So really, the other question that I was curious about is, what if you're interested in having additional professional development or opportunities to get together, network with peers, those kinds of things. One thing that I am cognizant of is that folks generally are supervising folks beyond VISTA members, and so I don't necessarily think that providing professional development around supervision is super useful for a lot of folks, but if there are things that are coming up that you think would be helpful, we'd like to offer that if there's a need for it. And then secondly, just again, the opportunity to connect with peers if that's there. We do have our networking events in general with the Campus Compact Network more broadly. But if there's a need for folks, or a desire for folks to get together as VISTA supervisors or VISTA project managers, I think that's also another way to think about it. It's not just the supervision that you're offering. It's like, what kinds of things are we asking our VISTA member to do? What works best in a VISTA model? So if those things are helpful, or if there's things that you think could be useful or ideas you have, feel free to throw them in the chat. my second poll is not coming up for me, so I'm not able to access it, but I'm open to ideas. And just know that those kinds of things are on our minds, but we don't want to ask more of you than is necessary. So we'll stop there. And again, I can stay on for a moment too. If folks have specific questions about their own site or their own experience, feel free to stay on after. Okay. And we did have a question I see about the next VISTA application. So it is, if they are like very ready to apply, we could potentially get them in this year if they are like, can get something together really, really quickly. Otherwise, it will be a full year from now if they want to do it through our program. It looks like there is some interest in networking with peers. So that is great. I will keep that in mind. And of course, those things would always be optional, not a requirement. So something a value add. So, all right. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you being here. We will be in touch.